Hello once again viewers and welcome back to another SCP reading from Garrett Stores and such. The SCP we'll be reading today is SCP-5250. I'll be reading this SCP from the third person as that's what's required in the SCP and that's how it's written, so hope that's okay with you. And along with that, this will be a much longer SCP than usual. It goes on for a while and I think it would be a lot more fun. Test my editing a little bit and just in general be fun. So let's get right into this. Recipe number SCP-5250. Ease of preparation, safe. Special cooking procedures. Growing up in a rural Michigan, nothing blocked out the cold like a big bowl of your mama's special SCP-5250. Now, you know some people would say there are 1,001 ways to make SCP-5250, but they'd be worse off than the deer trapped beneath the ice. You sigh as you've forgotten how to cook it. It's been so long. Thankfully, you've got the recipe right here. How convenient. One lake in rural Michigan. One 5-meter tall security fence. 2 armed guards. A dash of sound dampening equipment. How'd you forget? It's pretty simple recipe and all. Now you recall there's just a couple of things to avoid when making this. You are never, ever to step on the ice. No matter what the silly deer is doing, don't try and help him, he'll be fine. If you're not sharing a recipe, don't share anything. The crazy old deer will hear you. And no writing unless it's a recipe. If he can't read the document, you know he can't get you out. Get out. Only use the second person. No first person. No passive voice. No third person. I apologize. I said third person. I meant second. Well, it says second. I forgot. Description. To cook a splendid dish like SCP-5250, you first take the lake by the cabin as a base. Add in an unceasing appetite. The lake's edges opening up like the gaping jaws of a deep-sea fish. Crack open 2 sheets of ice by accidentally tossing a spoon onto it. Remember not to stare deep down onto its depths, because what is there is not human. No matter how much you may cry, you are not to fall down into its hole. You are not to look down there. You are not to feed it with what tapestry of yourself you have weaved in your minds. Apply 3 pints of a taste that appears similar to what you used to feel when you swallowed 5 chili peppers whole. That fire within almost calls reaches out to you. The heat and warmth make you feel more comfortable. You will feel heavy. You will need heavy amounts of seasoning with its umami flavor. It's not as if it can understand taste, eating, or anything of remotely related to it. It is safe, whatever it is. It is most certainly not a lake. You frown. Being one would have been beneficial, you think, as the water would help with the sheer amount of spice you add in it, which even the most resilient chef would scoff at. What it did with who it took is still unknown to you, but the dish is still missing something, you think. It'd be hard for you to think of exactly what, seeing as you're quite poor in the culinary department. Add in the deer for a bit of zesty kick. Taste it just to ensure you've added enough salt. The taste is a familiar one. It reminds you of the woods behind your house, where you used to go and creep among the bushes and trees, and pretend that you were a hunter on the prowl. It is strange being on the other side of that now. To be the one breathing silently, eyes in the back of your head. Silly deer, you think. So concerned about the exact location of whoever talks about it. Toss SCP-5250 with 2 salad forks, then mix with a ladle to disorient the deer. Pouring in the liquid now into the large bowl, you laugh, as its lame leg trails behind it like a shriveled corpse. It's not as if it could follow you, or at least it couldn't yesterday, you think. Today it's fine, but it will not be the day after. Then the cycle repeats. Or are you just too stupid to actually recognize it's solely being injured or not? But you ignore the deer. The mere thought of it or talking about it in any way, but this is purely hazardous, because it will find you. Then like a tempest whipped upon a frothy sea, it will not let go of you as you cycle down its gear. Whisk gently at first, then quickly, to prevent the liquid and these thoughts from settling. See if the liquid within the bowl will connect in a paper-thin strand like melted cheese. If not, then continue to whisk, as the lake and deer are definitely connected. But why can't you simply do it on your first time? Wash your hands and continue. Preheat your oven and take out your colander. Ignore the lake's calls and let them drain through the colander's holes. Ignore the fact that anything that falls down into its death is immediately taken to some place beyond. Ignore it all. That bubbling steam is all you should focus on, with its soft, gentle calls, repelling that of the siren song. SCP-5250 wasn't thought of by you. Not like you could. You're always of the mind that your grandma made it as a secret family recipe, even if you don't have one. Nor are you always the same you. However, you find SCP-5250 pairs well with the same cabin from the lake you always think of, and cheese. The charcuterie board is made of the same wood that the cabin built in 1999 was. It was owned by two men, a Mr. Joseph Drydre and a Mr. Neil Williams. Both of them are deceased, having died of natural causes in 2000. A shame, you tell yourself, as you remove the dish from the oven with an oven mitt. Plate the dish well, ensuring that all elements are equally presented, in a way that is mysterious, familiar, and brand new, all at once. It's a difficult task. Are you sure you're even ready for it? After all of that, you're done cooking up a likely amazing stew of SCP-5250. The aromatic, delectable aura of the dish you've made reminds you somewhat of home, of you even, but ignore that as well. The smell tickling your nostrils must not be given mind. You've done better than you thought you could. You're aware that it took testing for the cabin, the deer, and this beautifully plated bowl of SCP-5250 to be reclassified as safe after you discovered the appropriate way to talk about them, which took you too long to find, you incompetent wreck. Below, you decided to attach some relevant documentation, to add a little more spice to the recipe, and ensure that the future cooks in training can serve up the dish just as decadent and spectacular as yours should be. One that the lake and the deer are both allergic to. They may as well be illiterate. They can hardly understand what a good recipe is. Okay. Let's move right on to the addenda. You've done some tests with SCP-5250, adjusting ingredients here and there, and seen what could happen if you tasted what came out of it. Below you can find the results, future chefs. Actions. Stepping into the lake. Snowshoes to help you pad out his weight. Result. You saw him slipping onto the ice. Despite this, you could still see their heat signature for a bit. Actions. Getting the computer to write about the deer, then reading what there is. Helpful ingredients. Your trusty keyboard. Result. The deer didn't notice. How delightful. Actions. Looking at the deer. Helpful ingredients. A pair of binoculars. Result. The deer wants you to keep on coming. Actions. Attempting to kill the deer. Helpful ingredients. Some fiery gunpowder and two 45 caliber bullets with earthy undertones. Result. A disappointing presentation, as the deer was completely fine. Actions. Preparing a nice beef jambalaya. Helpful ingredients. A pinch of salt, some vision blocking goggles, thermal imaging systems, and infrared sensors. Result. The lake didn't quite like that. You weren't supposed to see what lies beneath. Actions. Waiting. Helpful ingredients. A sprinkling of nothing. Result. The wind blows. The lake is hungry. In the cabin, when you and the others first came, you found a journal with some entries written by Mr. Drydre. In the cabin there was not much else, except for a gun found near the door. You decided to attach the journals below, with the approval of your site director. It is not as if there is much else you can do. You are stuck in the snow that rages outside. The deer seemed interesting to him being one of the guards outside. Start your stove. Set it to simmer. January 20th, 1999. I enjoy that what I can see right now is exactly what I have pictured in my mind. The fire is crackling, Near is snoring his ass off, and I'm writing this. We finish work on the cabin tomorrow. It's hard work, but Neil has been able to offer some minor reassurances. He was talking to the fur traders a ways back, managed to procure us some cured meats at least 2 months, to last almost 2 months, so we shall not run low on supplies. I admit I had some choice words for him when I found what he traded for it, but I suppose it doesn't matter now. It is not as though I needed the damn thing that we plan to live up here. Now that we plan to live up here. You revise your recipes, awaiting orders. The snow is picking up. There's nothing you really can do but wait. Cooking is the only escape, really. But you're thankful that the cabin's got quite the apparatus. But you're a bit full, aren't you, having eaten so much of that SCP-5250? It's really filling, and that sort of flavor you'd only get By accidentally biting down your own tongue. It's a strange flavor, certainly, but nothing too strange. Perhaps a bit familiar, really. You sit and think. Think about the deer, the webs of antlers, the majestic look. They seem quite trustworthy, don't they? A buck, proud and noble, ruler of the woods, would not hesitate to help you out. So why did you leave the one out on the ice? You quickly shake your head. The recipe told you so, junior researcher. You open your computer, staring at a smiling photo of yourself. You close it. Must conserve your battery. Garnish with bits and pieces of thought. January 27th, 1999. Neil has developed a taste for fish. He's been spending his time ice fishing in the small pound out back. He spent an awful lot of time back there. After he said a bear had eaten our supplies, an unfortunate start to our new life, but that's quite okay. I asked him to stay close to me in bed tonight. He agreed, though mentioned he'd be getting splinters. Granted, what we have isn't much of a bed, but I suppose it'd have to do. He talked about what he'd caught. It wasn't a lot, just a boot, a really old one. I'm surprised others have been up here, but I guess this stream can bring anything. I worry about it sometimes. Probably too much. It's hard not to, though. He's a bit too trusting. JD. The snow picks up even further. The wind's howling outside your walls. You look at the bookshelf at the cabin, empty. You open your computer, nearly dead. You don't recognize the person on your screensaver, nor do you remember your password. You shrug. That's alright. It's not like you have a connection up here. Add in 2 teaspoons of sugar. February 1st, 1999. We're running low on food. Neil went out into the woods yesterday. Came back this morning. I never struck him as much of a mountain man, but I can't deny the grizzled look was a bit attractive. He said that he'd managed to shoot a deer outside our cabin last night, but he couldn't go out in the ice to get it. That was a bit too risky, which of course I believed. He then told me that he'd kill it tomorrow. Only, I'm a bit of a light sleeper. I heard no gunshots yesterday. Neil's never been much of a liar. Was the first to defend me and actually wanted us to come up here when the town got angry. He's never lied to me before. I'm worried about him. There's a storm brewing and he seems to only want to keep getting food. JD. The guards outside are gone. You're not quite sure where they went, but you think they may have left before the wind started to pick up. Joke's on them. You've got food. You've got the recipe book you found, and you've got warmth. February 14th, 1999. The deer's not dead. The storm has picked up lately. Neil isn't himself, still trying to fish. He's not doing it as much, which I suppose is a bit better than how often he was doing it. I tapped him a couple of times last week. It took him a bit to come to. Perhaps some of the herbs are hallucinogenic or something else. Who knows? I have to stay close in bed tonight again. He just looked at me and told me I was thinking about what he'd said or something like that, then turned around. I don't think he realized what it was today. He didn't even say anything besides that. JD, you feel the deer. It comes closer, and you want to go closer to it. You can reason with the deer some. It's a lot like you, isn't it? Wounded, worried, and just trying to survive out there in the ice. You're quite surprised that things managed to survive this long. It's a big buck, though. Must be hardy. Would make for some good venison stew if you managed to kill the thing. Perhaps you'd try later. Let it sit for 30 minutes. February 25th, 1999. Neil has been lying to me. I would well leave him, but the storm's outside still. I suppose the storm's a bit of an excuse. I don't really want to. I'm still doing what we used to, going through the motions, but I feel I found the meats we traded for, hidden under the floorboards, and Neil keeps telling me that I wondered how he'd found them, even though I did that, not him. I don't sleep so well. He doesn't even sleep with me anymore, and the snow's starting to break into the cabin. It's too cold. He hasn't eaten in days either, and I'm afraid he's going to starve. I hear hooves sometimes outside my window. When I turn, there's nothing there. JD, you shot it. The ground rumbled and the deer flailed. It went onto the ice. What an awful coincidence. You lost your food and an earthquake. You sigh. Whatever the lake is, it's hungry. It doesn't eat normally. You know as much. That's why you're writing like this in the first place. It doesn't even know how people normally eat. It's only tipped off when you talk about it using you. So this starves it somewhat. But it knows you're here. Add 2 cups of you. I believe he is dead. I don't know why I'm writing this. I don't know what I'm doing here. I don't at all. The deer isn't dead. It's completely fine. I saw him step out onto the pond to kill it, and and, he, well, fell in, just like that, and the deer did too. Then the deer came back up. It was wounded, and then it was fine. The deer sounded fine, and he didn't come back up, and he was a lion bastard, but he was my lion bastard. JD. He walked over to the lake today. The deer had returned in a small hole. Perfect one to ice fish in. He looked down, and you almost want to jump in, but you don't. You feel it's drawing you. It's calling you, as if it's part of what you've lost. How awful. Awful it is. You and the lake must be without each other. How awful it is. You and the deer must be without each other. How great it would be to go walk over and join the deer. However, you are quite cold. It would be so warm to kill the deer and steal its pelt. But it almost doesn't have a pelt. It's not quite itself, just like you aren't yourself. As if you were staring at it through a dirty mirror, as if you were being reflected within a dirty mirror, stirring a pinch of self-doubt. The trader's been coming by every 3 days or so to give me food. I'd be dead without them. Guess they took pity on me, but they've gone now. Haven't come by in a week or so. It's hard to tell because it's so dark outside. I'd walk out the windows because of all the snow, and the holes in that thing plunged through. Looks like a gun, but I don't know. I heard a knock at the door. Maybe it's them. It was not them. It was a deer. The deer sounded like a man. The deer sounded like them. I heard it say, "Help me. I am stuck." There are 2 more holes in the ice. The pond is bigger. I saw the deer enter their mouths, then it left. Then they went into the deer's mouth, and both went into the ice. What do I do? You. Clip, clop, clip, clop. There are noises outside your cabin. Then nothing. Then a phone rings. But the phone is outside. It is the guard's phone. They're back. How great for you. But the guard doesn't answer. Nothing does. Then you notice the ringing comes and goes with the clip and clop. Click for 40 seconds on high heat. You have been waiting, silent, for 3 days now. You can only tell the passage of time via the birds, crows and owls at night, sparrows at morning. The tapping is there. You hope Neil is here. Wait, you hear a knock. Maybe it's Neil. You recognize there are no more journal entries. Disappointing, because perhaps you'd know what the deer is. However, your thermal imagery has shown that the deer leads under the ice. Its hoof connects to a thin strand which leads to a large familiar mass waiting patiently underwater. It rings, it clips, it clops, it cries out to be heard, for it is hungry. Your computer manages to eke out a single bar of connection for my car, which is running out on its last legs. You can hear something stabbing it, running upon its hood, destroying it down to the last metal bits before a loud splash can be heard. Then you lose your connection. But it was enough time to send the document through at least. You can remember, at least that part of you. But you are stuck. The snow is bearing down your cabin. You write this for your future chefs. There is a knock at the door. You have your gun ready, locked and loaded to fire. Maybe you are being rescued, but you're hungry. So hungry, and you want to cook up another bowl of SCP-5250. A nice, creamy, and steaming bowl of SCP-52. SCP-5250 stew. The lake feels like that, like one big pot of it. So maybe deep down your hope is the deer? It is the deer. Maybe it is you at the door. Maybe you open it, and Viola, your dish is finished. Footnotes. 1. For freshness, make sure to switch out these frequently. Well, viewers, that was a strange one to say the least. I still apologize for the stuttering. I need to figure out how to actually not do that midway through videos about every 10 seconds. I will try to be able to do better with that, so, well, thanks for watching. I, hope you had a nice time. And, again, I'll try to get a little bit longer videos just like this one. I'm going to wrap out in about 20 minutes, so, yeah. Well, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment what you would like next.